Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, and their organizations adapt and thrive in an accelerating, exponentially changing world. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP of Business Engagement and Growth at the AICPA CIMA, the largest global body of certified professional accountants in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, the move from scorekeeper to strategist, transforming accounting education for the modern CFO. And joining me is Karen Gaskill, a relatively new DBA, MS, CPA, and CGMA. That's a mouthful there, Karen, but certainly well-deserved. She's an accounting educator and business consultant with prior experience in senior leadership roles, primarily as CFO, controller, leading all finance and accounting functions, human resources, and information systems in privately held companies. Middle management experience with $20 billion of publicly traded multi-unit global retailer, business consultant, primarily serving privately held enterprises with business analysis, process improvement, internal controls, strategy development and implementation, and risk management. You're an exemplar of exactly what we're talking about, Karen, which is why I'm excited to have you here. She's a CPA, a chartered global management accountant, CGMA, doctorate in business administration, master's of science in accounting, a certificate in process management, and continuous improvement and lifelong learning. Her experiences spans public accounting, manufacturing, retail service, and academia. Karen, say hello to our audience.
Hi, thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, well, we met, I guess it was a little bit over a year ago, about a year ago at the AAA midwinter meeting of the management accounting section, where we ran several sessions that featured corporate finance professionals in panel discussions talking about the changing role and impact of finance and accounting folks and on college university educators. And that you mentioned you were working on your PhD. So tell me about that journey and what you think about this whole idea of what do we need to do to kind of move accounting education to the next level.
Wow. Well, I have defended my dissertation. It was in enterprise risk management in small and medium-sized privately held organizations. And so I defended in July, and my degree was conferred in August. And since then, I've been teaching primarily managerial accounting at Wake Forest University here in North Carolina. So, I am just trying to harness my experiences in industry and public accounting to positively impact the future of finance and the future of business.
That's why we're excited to have you on the show for sure, because obviously, the talent issue is huge in these major corporates. They're trying to figure out how we will recruit more and more students. And I think we need more and more students to have some of the wisdom and background that you might be bringing to the table for sure. Now, if you remember way back to that midwinter meeting, what were some of the highlights that you took away from the sessions about the changing role of the CFO and how you think that's impacting education? And then what changes do you think we need, and how are we starting to begin to change that in the educational system?
Yeah, so, I have spent most of my career working in privately held small and medium-sized businesses, and that's very broadly defined, generally startups to $100 million in revenues, total assets. So a relatively, a big span, but the key is that they're privately held and resource strapped, really. And so I had the good fortune of, working with companies who were going through challenges. I usually went in when there was maybe a transition from one generation to the next, or, just facing some sort of challenge. They were growing or losing customers, or they were trying to acquire new businesses. And so just some sort of transition where they needed financial expertise that they didn't have in-house. And so through those experiences, getting to implement continuous improvement, strategic planning, the balanced scorecard, these new tools, which was very labor intensive, but getting to do that really showed me, I got to experience the power of harnessing this expertise that we have as accounting and finance professionals to understand the business. Yes, the role of accounting and the integrity of the financial system and all of that is very important. Controlling, protecting the assets, our fiduciary responsibilities, but we also understand the accounting information like no one else in the organization, especially in the organizations I worked with, again, where there just wasn't that expertise. And so being able to explain that to non-financial people in the business and help drive decision-making and drive performance, improve performance, and all of that, help organizations meet their goals. That is just what I'm passionate about. And so I definitely, Amra Johnson's presentation from Coca-Cola on finance transformation in that huge organization, that definitely resonated with me, right? But one thing that sticks out for sure during that, there's always great speakers and great networking opportunities at the AAA Management Accounting section. They're so welcoming. I've had such a good experience with them. But I had the opportunity to participate in the doctoral colloquium at that particular conference. And, it just sticks with me to this day. Eva Labro from UNC Chapel Hill, so the first session of the doctoral colloquium was on emerging issues in management accounting. And there's a panel discussion and people speak, and it's all, very interesting. And then Dr. Labro gets up there and talks about this new tool she discovered over the break called ChatGPT, that she asked to do a presentation for her. And then she showed us the presentation, and of course also asked it about some accounting jokes. And, it was just that moment where we were like, wow, this is going to change things. Yeah. And it certainly has. We're still talking about it. I just did a series of seminars at Wake Forest on large language models and artificial intelligence and how it's changing education and what we need to be doing. But, I talk with my students. I have MBAs. I teach in the MBA program, the Master of Science in Accounting program, and the undergraduate programs. And I'm asking them, how are you using AI in your organization? Because if it's just, we're talking about it because we're academics and we like to, get involved in these conversations, then that's one thing. But if it's really impacting organizations already, then we need to be preparing our students for that. Yeah. And so that's what I find when I ask my MBA students. They're talking about how they're using it or how they're talking about using it. I have some consultants, and so the tools that they're providing, and it gives me tremendous hope for the way that this can particularly impact small and medium-sized businesses, because, in my experience, implementing these cost management strategic tools that can help organizations be better, do better, they were so cost intensive, right? And there was always this perception, even though there might have been a cost benefit analysis or cost benefit, a positive, the benefit outweighing the cost. Small business owners, are, even though they're risk takers in some respects, entrepreneurial, they're also resource strapped, and they have to be good stewards. And it often seemed like, well, that's good for my big competitors, but I can't do that. And I feel like there's potential. What I'm hearing and seeing is that artificial intelligence can help us be better. Yeah. In helping organizations use these tools, and it's going to have profound impact. So we need, as educators, we need to understand that and know how to prepare our students.
100%. And to your point, so what's interesting, we have this Future Finance Leadership Advisory Group. That's obviously who we brought to the AAA, if you will, Amra Johnson and some of those types of players. And that group, I guess it was about middle of the summer when we had an in-person meeting, and it's about 50 of these large corporate CFOs and controllers. At that meeting, one of them said, my CEO came in and said, we're pivoting our whole corporate, they were a software company, pivoting our whole corporate strategy around ChatGPT and Gen AI. I mean, like on a dime. And that literally the rest of the group chimed in and said, you know what, we're hearing that noise. And it turns out that finance is leading ChatGPT and Gen AI uses in almost every major company that we talk to. So it turned into this major topic for our future finance group. We just had a summit in December, and we had Gartner come and present. We had a bunch of use cases. So you're spot on here for sure, Karen. You want to make sure you're shouting from the treetops that finance and accounting and educators have to get on this bandwagon of understanding it, starting to begin to play with it, and those kind of things. So,
Right.
So you already covered the other question I was going to ask, is because every interview I do now has to include something about ChatGPT. Well, you just tick that box for sure, but it's crazy.
Yeah. So one other session from that AAA management accounting section where we met was, of course, you're building the management accounting pipeline. I would be remiss not to mention that, because that is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. So I always enjoy any presentation and really appreciate all the work that you all are doing to move the profession forward. But, when I first started teaching, and I dabbled in and out, I was being called to teach, I could feel that, but I just enjoyed the actual work so much and felt like I was making a difference there. And it's hard as an accounting educator. You don't know if you're making a difference on the day, but in business, we got immediate feedback, of our decisions and how we were doing and being part of a team and moving things forward. But, the great thing about being an accounting educator is that there are so many resources for us. I mean, you all do the seminars and you keep the academic community moving forward, and we just have to stay engaged and involved. But, it really struck me early on when I had a student tell me, well, I chose accounting because I thought it was not changing, and you make it seem like it's such a changing profession. This makes me uncomfortable. And I thought, wow, someone really did you a disservice. Like, I don't know where you got the impression that accounting was not changing, but nothing could be further from the truth. And you're right. I mean, in organizations, there's expertise across the organization, but one thing that we bring is that understanding of the whole organization, because everything flows through the accounting system.
Yep.
And so there's really nothing that we shouldn't know. And really AI gives us the opportunity now. I've heard AI compared to Excel, and that's scary. If, that AI has the potential, imagine that we didn't learn Excel back in school in the 90s or whatever, so, but Excel allowed us to harness the financial information and be more productive, and it exponentially improved productivity and has definitely had an impact on the business. But I feel like what I'm hearing about AI is it's that chance to not only harness the financial information, but also the non-financial information. And that's been the big draw for me. It's like we are spending all this money. The way to sell these ideas to small businesses, from my perspective, is you're already spending all this money to capture information, especially if they had an ERP system, right?
Right.
If they were big enough to have adopted an enterprise resource planning system and have all their systems integrated, they're already spending so much money collecting this data. Why aren't you using it? And that's where we can really help. And that's where I've seen, the power and experience. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And really the opportunity to help develop future business leaders is amazing to me. I just feel so blessed to be where I am.
Well, we're lucky to have you in the role that you are, inspiring this next generation for sure. A couple things I want to double click on, because you hit just about everything where we want to cover. The notion of so let's talk about the Excel piece, because everybody, the question I hear a lot, and students are starting to get it. There's a new term called FOBO. You've heard FOMO.
Right.
The new one is the fear of becoming obsolete. So
wow.
Many accountants are saying Gen AI is going to make us obsolete. Now, I'm old enough that I remember when Excel came out, actually Lotus 1, 2, 3, and
yes. I wasn't going to mention that, but
I'm dating myself. But at that era, I'll never forget, there was a Wall Street Journal article that said Excel is going to be the end of accounting. Wall Street Journal, right? And I'm like, and turned out that when you look back, it actually accelerated accounting, because now accountants could do your productivity went up through the roof. You could do more analytics, which made you more valuable to the business. I think Gen AI for us is the exact same thing. If you use Gen AI as a CPA, CGMA, you're going to be doing lots more than you could without it.
Right.
That's where all that value comes from.
You're right. You had said something about going from strategic, or the number cruncher. I don't have the words right, but being the strategic business partner, and you really hit on it. I hadn't realized that when I started, it was very much we're the number crunchers. We create the data for other people to use to make decisions.
Right.
And then we got freed up. And so now we're like, okay, what do we do with all this extra time? We could put our feet on the desk and get, eventually
get fired,
get obsolete, right? I love the FOBO. I hadn't heard that, so I made a note of that. But we were freed up to pursue these other things. And early on, I had the opportunity to implement an ERP system, and there's no better way to learn about how everything works together than to implement that. And that was really transformative in my career. And I think about, there's still definitely companies implementing systems, but not like we were in Y2K, right? There was an urgency to it. And I've also often thought about, wow, how do people get these skills when they don't get in on the ground level? But here we are at the ground level of something that's going to be transformative. So everyone needs to get on board. And, I tell people, I'm not concerned. I'm actually grateful that there are these productivity tools coming into place with our pipeline issue and the shortage, and really the realization of what we can bring to the table and our skill set and what it, the understanding we have of the financial operations of the business and all of that. It is a good thing that some things are being automated, because there's not enough of us to go around, and we can get some actual work-life balance, which is a concern. But, a lot of people are just so passionate about, I know I am just so passionate about what I do. Even when I don't have a full schedule, I fill it up with learning. There's always more to learn. And, I think that's the best thing. You asked about, what we can do for the future of finance and the students and from an educational perspective. But I think we just have to make sure that they leave comfortable with ambiguity, comfortable with uncertainty, whatever we can do to inspire them to be lifelong learners, building resilience, flexibility, working with diverse groups, because a student actually asked me yesterday about this diversity thing, and if I, basically what my real feelings were on it. And I said, if you surround yourself with people who think and are just like you will not get the best answers. You need people who will challenge, who will say, that's not my experience, or whatever. So we need diversity in all respects, so that we do get to better answers faster. And, when something doesn't go as planned, we can pivot. And it's just all about surrounding yourself with good people and people who complement skill sets rather than repeat them, because we don't need the duplication. So
100%. And it's funny because I just got back from a meeting of our CIMA council. So we're now global, and we've got members in about, I think, like 190 countries. But we went to India and met with a bunch of our members over there and had our council meeting. And again, the diversity in the room from all over Asia and the rest of the world is incredible, right? And I call it the wisdom of the group. When you can tap those diverse opinions and perspectives, it's a game changer. So to your point, every future student out there needs to be thinking from that perspective. And your lifelong learning point is so spot on. I mean, we're calling it this era of, Tom Peters likes to say, RPD, radical professional development. Every day, wake up and say, what can I be doing to learn that next new thing? I'm one of those. I got a whole kind of bookcase behind me with books going on that to help keep me straight. And so that it's so important for that next gen, for all of us, even the current gen, to be lifelong learners and accelerate that. And then tap into Chat GPT, because that will be like a rocket fuel for your productivity, right? And it's so democratized now. I mean, it's built into Microsoft Copilot. Google's coming out with their version. I mean, you just name it, but they're all coming out for not a lot of money. So for $20 a month or whatever, you can subscribe to some of this stuff and get that extra fuel and then go after it, right? So it's incredible.
Right. Yeah. It's a great time to be alive, right? It's a great time to be an accountant for sure.
No question. And I knew this was going to be awesome. I appreciate you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for this. You just hit every major topic we wanted to cover. We are going to post in the chat our white paper that we produced from that AAA conference called The Changing Roles of Finance and Accounting on Educators. Captures a whole lot of those of that sentiment there. For more with Karen, you can follow her on LinkedIn at Karen Gaskill, Gaskill. Are you on Twitter?
I'm not. I had to give up social media during the dissertation, and that's something that I'm not quite into yet.
When you get back on it, let me know, because I'm.
But I would love for anyone to connect with me on LinkedIn, and would love to continue the conversation. But I really appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
It's been awesome having you here. So our next generation is in good hands, thanks to people like you and other educators. I want to thank you for joining me, and for my audience here, don't miss other Future Ready Live sessions back here on LinkedIn, the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern. Thanks again, Karen. And for all of you out there, we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much.